Okay, folks, it's your buddy. It's me. And hopefully you can hear me properly. I'm using the microphone here, so if anyone checks in, let me know if you can hear me. I do appreciate when people let me know if the audio is working. So, big wrestling weekend, and the question that we're leading off with in pure speculation. Shane McKenna of Wrestling Fans on Facebook. If you look into Wrestling Fans, that's the name of the group on Facebook, Wrestling Fans. So good for Shane that he got that name. It's simple enough. And Shane wanted to know, because Shane, I believe, is in the Chicagoland area, or some might just say Chicago or Chi-Town. If you remember Chi-Town Rumble 89 and Chi-Town Heat 87, Starrcade. Great history of wrestling in Chicago. Of course, goes back to the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser and all those AWA guys. Vern Gagne. Will CM Punk appear tonight? You know, we're less than 24 hours away. I guess we're about, 16 hours away till Rampage. Will the fans that buy a ticket to Rampage see CM Punk in person? So my hot take, just my opinion, I could be wrong, is yes, CM Punk will make an appearance on Rampage tomorrow. I believe he will enter the ring. I believe he'll be in street clothes. I believe he'll say something. I think it'll be maybe more traditional than you might expect. I think AEW has, I don't want to say backed, I will say they've kind of backed themselves into a corner because they've put so much hype and there's been so much attention on this CM Punk thing that, especially if you come off that Christian Cage thing, remember that Christian Cage was supposed to, there was supposed to be a big premiere or a big, shocking personality, and it turned out to be Christian Cage. Whenever that was, 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. And people kind of, and I think everyone was kind of on the same page, or a lot of people on the same page, unless you were a hardcore, Edge and Christian fan from 1999 or 2002 or something, or when Christian beat Jeff Jarrett for the TNA title. Most people felt a little shortchanged, when it was Christian Cage. So I think they've kind of played this well. They haven't said that definitely CM Punk's coming. They haven't done any teaser promos, vignettes, but they've done some Darby Allin stuff. CM Punk has kind of been coy as usual. Now, I want to put over this Wrestle Brothers. I want to give them a special shout out. I don't want to, make assumptions, but I believe the gentleman was speaking with a Indian accent. Not Native American, but I don't want to say, how do you say things now? I was going to say legit Indian, but like Indian from India. It sounded like his voice quality was from India, Wrestle Brothers, and he had like a really nice analysis of this. And I don't know if anyone else had this analysis, but the whole thing with CM Punk putting up 05, 11, 21, a lot of people were saying, well, these were the years. CM Punk signed with WWE in 2005. The summer of Punk was 2011. And now, I guess you'd say the second summer of Punk would be 2021. Well, this gentleman pointed out that there is I believe he said it was a Rampage episode on November 5th, 2021, scheduled for St. Louis. So this gentleman from the Wrestle Brothers YouTube page, which I just discovered tonight, his theory, if I have it correct, is that November 5th, 2021, a special Rampage, I guess they're all special, but Rampage will be coming from that location, St. Louis, this year. So that would give Punk, or Phil, as we can call him. Let me know if you can hear me, by the way, the person that just checked in here. Let me know if the audio is okay. Just say audio. Write, you type a comment if you can. Say audio is good or audio sucks. I don't want to be talking like a pantomime here. But so the theory from Wrestle Brothers was those dates 05, 11, 21 were not years, but a specific calendar date that is yet to happen, which would be November 5th, 2021. His thought was that perhaps that is when CM Punk will actually wrestle for the first time on Rampage. And so there's been other speculation online. Once again, it's all speculation. This is all fun. We don't have any, we don't have the contracts in front of us. This is the anticipation, the suspense of what we go through as wrestling fans. I think it'll be interesting. I think that in a way, AEW has kind of put themselves in a corner. They've sold this First Dance thing in Chicago at this huge venue. I believe tomorrow night's Rampage is sold out. I could be wrong, but I believe it's sold out for a big venue. And kind of with the tease and the titillation of CM Punk at least making an appearance. So I think he will be there. I think he will go in the ring. Like I said, I think he'll be more conventional than you might expect. Expect something rather conventional of CM Punk coming to the ring at some point, taking the microphone, saying something of meaning, and leaving. And perhaps a Darby Allin tease for a match, perhaps not. I think one thing they could do is kind of play this thing out a little bit. Let every little appearance of Punk mean something more. Now, the question that Shane McKenna of Wrestling Fans had is, we'll see him Punk, I think. Shane was saying, will he show up here or will they wait for the September 5th all-out pay-per-view, which is also in Chicago? So my feeling is they've already kind of put themselves in a tough spot because I think if they don't have Punk arrive, my hair's all fucked up. If they don't have Punk arrive, at least and make an appearance, then they're going to have 15,000 disappointed people, which is a lot. And Chicago, not as tough as Philly as far as insane sports fans, but tough enough. I think they don't want to do that. They have angry fans. You don't want to isolate or alienate people to that extent. Sometimes you want to tweak wrestling fans, upset them, to lead to something else. But I think in this case, AEW is kind of in a tough spot because this First Dance thing, to me, it's a reference to Michael Jordan in The Last Dance. It's the same city of Chicago. But if this is the Punk dancing, so to speak, he's got to show up to dance. Now, one thing that's been kind of overshadowed about this whole CM Punk thing is Daniel Bryan. It was literally like the same week, 2 or 3 days before, by my memory, going back about a month ago, literally just 2 or 3 days before people were talking about Daniel, before they're talking about CM Punk, they're talking about Daniel Bryan. My hair is just like a fucking carnival ride. But before they were talking about CM Punk, we were all excited about Daniel Bryan. Then 2 days later, oh, fuck Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. So could it be that Daniel Bryan shows up on Friday Night Rampage? Why not him? You know what I mean? I think that might be an interesting swerve. If you were a fan in Chicago that bought a ticket and CM Punk does not show up, but Daniel Bryan does show up, are you mad? Do you want your money back? Do you feel that you've been neglected or abused? You tell me, because if I was in the audience and either one of those guys showed up, I'd be pretty psyched, as a wrestling fan. But I think it's just interesting that how fickle the wrestling fans are. We want new toys. We want new action figures. Oh, you got me the Iron Sheik action figure, Mom? I wanted the Roddy Piper one. Go get me the Roddy Piper one. Oh, you gave me CM Punk in Chicago? I want Daniel Bryan in Chicago as well. And I want Braun Strowman. I want all my toys. So, we're all very fickle wrestling fuck fans when you come down to it. But I don't know. There is some anticipation. Let's be honest. I'll be honest with you. Look, I'm mature. I do my own goddamn thing in the world too. But is it kind of exciting to think that there might be a surprise tomorrow night? Sure. Or tonight. It's past the witching hour when I'm doing this. I think it's all very exciting. Other wrestling thoughts? Once again, this Wrestle Brothers guy. I mean, look, I'm not afraid to put over other YouTube people. So this other Wrestle Brothers gentleman had like this picture of Bray Wyatt. I look more like Bray Wyatt than fucking Bray Wyatt looks like Bray Wyatt right now. Like he's shaved his beard and he's dyed like the top of his head blonde and he's shaved most of his hair too. And he has just like these little sprouts, like a fucking sprout on the top of a potato. And he kind of looks like a fat Adam Duritz from the Counting Crows. Like if you saw, if you ever seen the Counting Crows guy, like make him fat, and that's what Wyndham Rotundo, the former Bray Wyatt, looks like now. He looks like a fat Adam Duritz. No offense to fat Adam Duritz, which doesn't even exist. It's just something that the former Bray Wyatt, now Wyndham Rotundo, looks like, a fat Adam Duritz. So Wrestle Brothers, shout out to you and your 2,000 subscribers or whatnot. They're welcome to join the party over here. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a heads up, because a lot of times the wrestling fans come to me and they say, Mike, what's happening with this? What's happening with that? I don't, no offense, guys, but I don't live my life to read the Wrestling Observer and read all the rumors and innuendo. I consider myself more a historian, an aficionado, but I have other things to do. I mean, I'm a full-time actor. I do Mike's Instant Movie reviews. I write books. So, but if you want to just see who's got like the hot wrestling scoops, these are some things that I'll give you some nominations for your viewing pleasure. And I'm just putting some people over here, giving them credit. WrestleMania is kind of coming on strong. I believe, once again, a gentleman from India. WrestleMania is a lot of fun. And the guy does a nice job with his voiceovers, and he kind of gets to the point. Like, he gets to the stories. He doesn't analyze every single match from every single show. He gives you, like, the top headlines and with a little bit of commentary, but not much. And I kind of like his style. And his videos are kind of like, and he's got, like, a cool audio track. So WrestleMania on YouTube. If you want someone just to sit there and read the fucking Wrestling Observer to you, and I've thought about doing this because I probably have a better reading voice, but Hannibal, Hannibal is an interesting enigma to me. I mean, you've most likely, if you're a pro wrestling fan, you've seen his interviews. I feel for the guy with the whole Abdullah the Butcher thing. I actually do, and I do kind of respect that Hannibal took him to task for that, and I feel bad that Hannibal's not gotten money. I think some of the Hannibal stuff with like Terry Funk and Lanny Poffo, it's something. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of not. I mean, it seemed like some of those were kind of stiff, like they were kind of stiff shoot background stuff or behind the scenes. So I give Hannibal credit. And this is, I hate to criticize people for things they can't change, but I will. Hannibal's tonality, his voice quality is off-putting, I think, to myself and others, that he sounds kind of bored at all times. Maybe that's just a Canadian thing. No offense to Canadians, because I'm, French-Canadian heritage, Messier. But I've just, through my years of public speaking and just being a natural personality, I've learned to use ebbs and flows in my voice, and I've learned to, accentuate things, and I've learned to make the voice patterns unique and intriguing to the listener. Hannibal hasn't quite done that. Hannibal has a very, well, I want to ask you about your career. You wrestled for Stu Hart. Thanks, Hannibal. I mean, no offense, Hannibal. I like Hannibal. I feel that Hannibal could be better, a better, kinder, gentler Hannibal if he actually had some fucking personality in his voice. Not that he doesn't have personality, because it's evident in his thing with Lanny Poffo and Billy Jack Haynes. He does have personality, but maybe that is his personality. It's just the tonality of the voice is very flat. It's very one level. And I'm telling you that, but he'll fucking read the paper for you. I mean, Hannibal will get the Wrestling Observer and he'll download it, and he'll be quick to upload his readings, his interpretations of the Observer, if that's what you're interested in. Save your $20 a month or whatever the fuck, or you know, as Brian Alvarez says, you're $7.99. So there you fucking have it. I'm just going to alert the people on Twitter, fuck, that, you know what I mean? I'm just telling people on Twitter, fuck, that I'm live. And you know what I mean? Just so that they know if they give a shit. Which I'm sure they do once they find out. So any fucking way. Okay, so we've got this whole big Wrestle goddamn weekend coming up. Everyone's singing a song. Everyone's excited. We've got Friday Rampage, and then we've got, interestingly, it just sunk in, Saturday fucking SummerSlam. Is this the first SummerSlam on a Saturday? I remember, I believe 1992 was the tape delayed. That was the Wembley Stadium, which was, thanks, Lou. You know, it's funny, Lou, because this shirt, I'm glad you like it, buddy, because I haven't put it in the recycling bin. This shirt was actually in my car to hit the recycling bin, but here I am away from the homestead, and I said, fuck, I'm not going to recycle this Mox shirt. It's a Halloween Mox shirt. I dig it. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's not my favorite because I feel like it's, for a guy my size to walk around with a bloody butcher knife on his shirt, it's kind of like a call for undue attention that I don't need. You know what I mean? There is a thing, we talk about racism, sexism. I like to call something sizeism. You know, as a big guy, so to speak, if I'm at a picnic or a barbecue or a birthday party, I'm always going to get like the extra piece of cake or the extra slice of pizza. Hey, give it to this fucking guy. He'll eat it. But there's a downside of that where in public, I can't really raise my voice or be the full animated self that I like to be, you know, because of my size. People are going to find that to be threatening. So I've learned to kind of restrain myself in public. Yeah, that's a big boy size too, buddy. Yeah, that's a big boy size. Yeah, so when you're a big guy like us, like myself and Lou here, you have to like calm the fuck down because people are more easily threatened by larger guys. And if I was a woman, not that I'm a woman, but if I was like a petite or a mid-sized woman, or even a BBW, a big beautiful woman, I could be loud and boisterous and be, you know, complain about stuff, and people wouldn't feel threatened. But when you get some size behind you, suddenly you realize that people are kind of afraid. So just as a way to kind of broach society, I've learned to just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like I can't go out and just be loud and, you know, because it doesn't play well. It scares people. It intimidates them, if you would. So any fucking way. How did I get on that topic? We're done with this big fucking wrestling weekend. We got SummerSlam on a Saturday. The first I can remember, first non-Sunday SummerSlam since 1992. Unless the 2020 SummerSlam, was that on a different day, or was there some other recent SummerSlam? I kind of feel like maybe there was some recent SummerSlam, maybe 2020. So that would just be last year, and I'm just trying to remember what the fuck happened in last year's SummerSlam, if anyone can remember. But I'm trying to think if there was any recent WWE pay-per-view SummerSlam that was not on a Sunday besides 92, which was that fucking weird. It was tape delayed in the USA because it was in Wembley, and I don't know what day of the week it was in Wembley for the UK people. So anyway. Hey, traditions are meant to be broken, and this is, I believe, the first time that an NXT takeover will be held on a Sunday, the day after the main roster pay-per-view. It used to be like the NXT goes out there, they bust their ass, and it's like, okay, top this, and then the main roster pay-per-view has to happen and top whatever the, you know, NXT pay-per-view did, and usually couldn't do it. So this time it's reversed. People were getting excited or whatever. On Twitter, I saw the Dakota Kai promo. And, of course, me being me, I have to say, because basically it's this 3.5-minute promo of Dakota Kai talking about how Raquel Gonzalez. I hope I don't have fucking skin cancer on the tip of my nose. By the way, just so you know, I hope I don't have fucking skin cancer now. But basically, oh, you took all my title opportunities, Raquel. I was supposed to be the champion, but you swooped in and took my title opportunities, and I should have gotten the title match. And I just put on a comment. I liked this feud the first time, back when it was called Diesel versus Shawn. Sorry, ladies. I mean, if you're learning your scripts or you're learning your storylines from Hunter and Shawn, they obviously reassigned the whole history of Diesel and Shawn in 95 to whenever the fuck, 95, 96. They took that, I guess 94, 96. They took that and applied it to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. Am I wrong? I mean, because they're talking about the singles title, they're talking about the NXT Women's Singles title, they're talking about the tag team title. Is this not just an abridged version of Diesel and Shawn from 94, 96? Am I fucking right or am I fucking right? I mean, you tell me, folks, because it looks like the same goddamn storyline with chicks, with women, with females, whatever you want to call it. Non-diva women wrestlers, right? I mean, it's the same goddamn storyline. They just recycled it. And where did that come from? Well, Shawn works in the Performance Center, brother. And so does Hunter. So they've just recycled some goddamn storyline. And a generation that knows better is informing the unintelligent, or the uninformed, I should say. That's one thing. Even when I make that comment, I feel a little bit bad. A little, because maybe there's some wrestling fans, they're 12 years old or whatever, they watch NXT and they don't know the Shawn Diesel history. They don't know that they're being recycled storylines. And if I was a wrestling fan and someone was always kind of correcting me or saying, hey, the WWE screws up and they do revisionist history, maybe I wouldn't appreciate that. Like I've often thought, and I don't know if I've ever said it, but I'll say it now, that if I was a young wrestling Mike Messier fan, a young Mike Messier, I probably wouldn't like the current Mike Messier. I'd probably be pissed off, because I tend to point out the holes in the storylines and the bad booking and the inconsistencies. I tend to do that because I feel like, in my opinion, the WWE especially, but other wrestling groups as well, insult the intelligence of the wrestling fan. And my job, self-assigned job, is to not insult the wrestling fan, to talk up to you, to raise you to a higher level. Now, guys like Lou Thez, what would Lou Thez do? He knows the deal. Johnny kicking in, except for AEW, right, Michael? Johnny, I'm going to say this, Johnny, and I appreciate you, Johnny, checking in from the desert. Let's see. Well, okay, we'll get to that point in a second about music, because we'll have some something to say. Johnny, I do want you to know today, buddy, that I did go out of my way in the Facebook groups. It was a long post, which did not apply well to Twitter world, which you and I discuss in. That's our platform for discussion. But in Facebook world, I pointed out that this whole Max Caster thing, this supposed 2-month suspension of Max Caster, in my opinion, is a work. I'm not saying that Max didn't screw up with his rap. I'm not saying the whole thing was planned. What I'm saying is, and what I try to explain to the fans, but you can only explain so much on Facebook. I had to do a video to fully explain it. I feel that Max did his rap as usual. It played fine for the people in the audience. The editor of AEW Dark or whatever the show was didn't edit it out. Maybe Tony saw it, maybe Tony didn't. Then they got all the internet flack. And I think Johnny might have pointed this out on Twitter. Then they get all the flack. And then Tony basically has a little talk with Max. He's like, look, buddy, we're getting a lot of heat from this. I'm going to have to suspend you, but I think you left some poker chips in your locker. If you want to pay somebody off the books, it's pretty easy these days to do it. You how many different ways can you pay somebody off the books? You have a stack of casino chips. You know what I mean? You have a PayPal. You have a, oh, you dropped your $2,000 on the floor, buddy. You know, here's a, oh, I happen to have a Superman #1, Max. Please borrow this and don't return it. There's a pawn shop down the street. You know what I mean? How many ways can you pay somebody without them being on the books? So sure, they can suspend without pay Max Caster for 2 months from AEW. But what difference does it make, you know, if they're paying him in some other way? And is he going to sensitivity training class? Sure, maybe. I mean, how that might be kind of fun, to be honest with you. Like, to go to some, he might meet some chicks there. Who knows? I mean, he goes to sensitivity training class. What does that mean? You sit in a room for 45 minutes and you talk about stuff. So he's a wrestling heel. And I feel that also going to Daly's Place for all the shows that I've gone to, going to Daly's Place for 6 months on end to see all these goddamn shows, and basically 2 sets of people. QT Marshall, either him or the Acclaimed would come out and roast, diss the Jacksonville audience. This would be off air. And then Tony Khan would come out and babyface promo. And, you know, that would be the end of that. And that was pretty much the warm-up routine for AEW Dynamite for weeks, if not months. So people are getting upset that Tony Khan has suspended Max Caster, Johnny. And my point was, he's might be officially suspended, but he's unofficially getting paid somehow. And they're kind of doing their version of Brian Pillman and Eric Bischoff from WCW. Now, that, of course, had a different result because Pillman kind of swerved Bischoff. At least that's what he said. Pillman did at the time. And, you know, Pillman ended up in WWE. But Bischoff says he wanted to help Pillman get a higher rate of pay and that WCW wasn't going to allow that. I've watched Max Caster maybe once. Doesn't do anything for me. I hear you. I mean, I kind of like him. I like the raps. This offensive rap, I think there's a few. I mean, he did have a couple of loaded points in it. Let's go through the loaded. The first one's the Simon Biles thing. The Simon Biles. I'm sorry, I say her name wrong. I think here's the problem with that one. Simone, if I'm saying her name right, she was the victim of this horrible gymnastics atrocity with the coaching and these creeps. So when you make fun of her, you're kind of going back to that. Maybe Max didn't realize the full extent of it. Maybe he did. I mean, maybe he's a pure asshole. Who knows? The second thing about the Duke Lacrosse thing, so that charge was actually at least said to be or proven to be or said to be proven to be a false accusation. And so it's rape, but there was no real rape because it was a false accusation. At least that's the story as we know it now. Maybe that's not right. Now, the final note, which I didn't realize at the time, but this Julia Hart young lady, and she is young. Apparently, they're saying that she's only 19 years old. Okay, so now we're getting to a deal where the vagina comment from Max and his rap, a little offensive there. Now, she's legally old enough to work, and she's in the professional wrestling industry. And, you know, we know people like Missy Hyatt in the past and so on and so forth, who was recently a guest of my buddy Monty and the Pharaoh show. But, you know, that was a different time. That was Texas. That was the 1980s. That was Michael Hayes and John Tatum and guys like that. So this Julia Hart, but she's on the show, right? So shouldn't she be privy to being insulted? I mean, and I thought Julia actually did a great job with making a facial reference to the camera, like a facial expression of she sold it in a good way. I thought she did her part. So I guess I wasn't terribly offended listening to Sam Kinison, listening to Andrew Dice Clay, the amount of swearing that I do in my day-to-day life. I wasn't terribly offended by the rap. I just think that, Max had to take the hit for this, but I'm telling you, Tony Khan and these guys are, as the kids say, boys. They're all friends. Max Caster will be back, and they're going to make an angle out of it. And maybe they'll make some fun of the sensitivity training. Maybe he'll come back as like kind of when Stevie Richards did the fucking Right to Censor group. Maybe they'll do something that with the Acclaimed. Now, the other guy on the Acclaimed doesn't get much attention because Caster is kind of the star. Here, this is a great point. What would Lou Thesz do kicking in? Sensitivity in pro wrestling will never make sense to me. Great point. This is I want to say a sport. I always say a sport. This is a sport where 30-year-old men take razor blades to their forehead for the enjoyment of 12-year-old boys in the front row. And I've often been one of those 12-year-old boys. Like, I was a kid who loved, a Dusty Rhodes match with there's juice and blood. So now we have an age where, I remember a couple of years, it wasn't that long ago, 3 or 4 years ago, 2016 or 17, they had this Alexa Bliss feud with Nia Jax, and Alexa's making fun of her weight, Nia's weight. And it's like, she's making fun of her weight, and you're kind of doing this don't be a bully, be a star stuff on WWE. Here's my problem, especially with WWE, but this could easily become an AEW thing too as well, Johnny. So I'm not taking AEW off the hook, but WWE puts themselves in this position where they want to be a company that does the anti-bullying, yet pro wrestling's based on bullying. Pro wrestling is based on the skinny, hot, sexy, short Alexa Bliss making fun of the bigger, taller, dare I say, fatter Nia Jax. Now, in real life, we know that these two are thick as thieves. They're best buds. They're girls. They hang out in the car together. And I think Nia bought Alexa her pet pig and all that stuff. But on TV, in the characters, they're feuding. So Alexa is picking on her and abusing her. And then they have a match. I did see the Dan Lambert promo making fun of AEW fans. What's my take on that? Let me just finish with this bullying thing. The thing with the bullying, guys, is that pro wrestling is based on bullying. I mean, Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, and J.J. Dillon smashing Dusty Rhodes' arm in a parking lot, make it good. That's bullying, I hate to tell you. So that's my style of pro wrestling. I don't know what else you can do. I mean, but what they've done for WWE specifically for 7 or 8 or 9 years with the PG era, or going on 10 years, and they're kind of coming out of the PG era unofficially. But what is pro wrestling if it's not bullying? That's the whole point. The Lambert promo, he had a couple of legit guys with him, Andre Alexi, and who was the other one? The other former champion. Drawing a blank on the other guy's name, but Alexi is a real badass. I get the names screwed up. Andre Alexi, total badass. Had some really boring fights though with the big guy from Maine, Tim. Drawing a blank on his name too. They got a couture beat, Tim Sylvia. Nice to see some legit guys. Lambert's promo was good. I guess the question once again is, where is it headed? I mean, I feel like we've seen this before, Johnny, with Lambert. Didn't he do something in Impact Wrestling? It seems like not that long ago to me. Like, it seems like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe less, that Lambert and his Impact guys, his UFC guys, were in Impact. I guess I like it. I mean, I to be honest, part of me is just jealous. Like, I think that's a spot that I would be good in. And, the anti-AEW guy, like the anti-current wrestling guy bitching about it. He was with Lashley in Impact. See, I believe you. I just don't remember. I just remember him being in the ring and something going on with that. So I believe you that was Lashley. But I guess Lashley was heel then, because I remember Lashley doing the baseball bat and the baseball hat thing as champion for a while. And I thought Lashley was a babyface champion in Impact. So it's just my memory plays tricks with me. And Impact was getting harder and harder to find at that time, Johnny. I think Lambert's doing good. I guess I would just say, where's it headed? Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you a little Bobby Lashley story. It was 2012. I went to a show in Boston. I think it was, I want to say MWF is the name of the group. And it was a show that was about, an hour and 45 minutes away from me. And Raven was going to be there. I want to drink a little bit of this protein shake. Core Power. Raven was there and Shane Douglas. They had a match against each other, which was interesting. And Shane was even trying to do like a triple threat thing with a couple of guys in that group. And Bobby Lashley was there. And so Bobby Lashley was getting booked by these wrestling groups in Boston. This was like, I guess he was doing Impact, or maybe he wasn't, but he was still kind of floating around. And post WrestleMania 23 with him and Trump and Austin and Vince and the late, who was the Samoan that he wrestled? The Bulldozer, the Samoan Bulldozer. So Bobby Lashley was there in Boston and wrestling in like a 6-man tag. And guys, I just being honest with you, I literally fell asleep, like in the audience. Like I was just tired. I mean, it was a long day. I mean, I had driven couple of hours to get to the show, and then like the show was like 4 hours long, and it was a pretty stacked independent show. Like I'll give these New England wrestling promoters credit. They always seem to stack their shows. Well, Lashley was there, and I'm just like dozing the fuck off in the middle of a Lashley match. So, but I've found that Lashley, I've actually found him to be good. Like he looks like a fucking beast. I mean, he's scary. He's huge. I've actually been in a scene with his ex-wife. If you remember her, she's a nice lady. The woman that was on SmackDown, but in a movie. But I respect Lashley, but to me, it's like the thing when he was wearing this baseball hat in TNA and kind of doing stuff with AJ Styles, if I got that right. That was like a peak for Lashley. I think he wrestled Angle a couple of times. Angle was kind of on his way out. I've always liked – I like Lashley, but I don't love Lashley as a character or a performer. I think he's like – I don't even know if he's A-, to be honest with you. He might be B+. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't know what to say. I said this on a podcast today. I did a SummerSlam preview with the CTS interview room, and I feel like – one of the worst things to happen this year is the breakup of the Hurt business. I feel like that's such an atrocity that made no sense. It hurt everybody. And I feel that Junior is pushing Lashley still as a champion on his own to say, well, see, I told you he didn't need the Hurt business. And it's like, wait, I mean, you basically cast aside Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. They were sacrificed, I think, on a 2-on-1 to Lashley. But everybody, the sum was greater than the wholes of the parts. And I think that having a African-American horseman was awesome, like a horseman group. I mean, that's how I saw them, the Hurt business, as Lashley was your champion. He was the centerpiece. MVP was kind of like the player coach, and Cedric and Shelton were your Tully and Arn of the group. Like, that's your tag team. And I thought that the Hurt business was a great group. I had no motivation to put them over, except it was just obvious. That was money. That was a great team. And why did they break them up? I don't know. Okay, so I did do the SummerSlam prediction show with the CTS interview room. Joey, my buddy over there, and Jeremy. We had a great time, and that link will be up soon. But I'll give you some quick takes. I think Cena's winning tomorrow. Or not even tomorrow. Saturday. I guess it is tomorrow. So I think Cena's taking that title. I think they need a shot in the arm, they being WWE. They're going to have some headline competition against, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, whatever. We don't know what's going on with Braun Strowman. Here's my other prediction I forgot to mention on that show. I wouldn't be surprised if Braun Strowman shows up at SummerSlam. In fact, I will even make that my prediction, my off-the-wall. Nobody but me is predicting it. I'm predicting Braun Strowman to appear at SummerSlam. I think they will reconfigure a contract, maybe less dates, and we'll have Braun Strowman will stick at home with his home, WWE. The Bray Wyatt thing's interesting. I think Bray might want to grow that beard back in. I think if he feels, maybe Bray does that. Shaving the beard, dyeing the hair. Oh, I've got to change my look. I've got to start a whole new character. Well, Luthez disagrees. Here's the thing. Flair is no longer with WWE, so one thing we've learned about WWE, and Johnny, I don't think you can argue with this, is that they like to be petty sometimes. I mean, they had Randy Orton win a world title at a young age to beat Brock Lesnar's youngest champion ever, and that's a legitimate fact. Cena winning feels cheap and lazy. Yeah, I'm not saying. I feel like it's a way to get some headlines. It's going to be a big headline weekend for AEW. Now, some people contend, and some people cite that Vince Russo a year ago or 2 years ago said that he thought WWE was behind AEW. Lou is saying, I think you're correct. They will do it, meaning put the belt on Cena. So Vince Russo was convinced, at least at the time, that WWE was behind AEW or in cahoots, kind of like they were with, hey, Dante, nice to see you, buddy. WWE is very petty, LOL, but Vince loves Roman too much. See, here's the thing, Dante. I don't think it hurts Roman to lose this title to Cena, knowing that he's going to get it back. I didn't say that Roman was not going to get it back. I just think that Cena's going to put it on tour and do the talk show thing. And it's no longer, I always want to say Regis and Kathy Lee because that's who I grew up with, but it's who's the new Kelly Ripa and it's not Justin Timberlake. It's the guy that used to be on American Idol, that dude, right? So I just see that Cena is going to do the tour. Nice to see you on you here, Dante. I just feel that Cena's going to take this title on tour, meaning the media tour, the mainstream media tour. And I don't think that Roman has quite crossed that into that stratosphere yet. He'll get there, but right now Roman's a wrestler. He's not a movie star. Cena is a movie star, and you call it hot shotting, whatever you want to call it. Hope you subscribe, Dante, if you haven't before. But I just feel like they're going to put that belt on fucking Cena, and it might just be for 2 months. It might be for 3 months. Might be for a month. Might be for a week. I mean, I think it's just something that they're going to do. And my buddy there on the podcast, Jeremy, was saying that it would be a way to slight Flair, Ric Flair. In my opinion, it's not so much that. It's more because they want to hotshot the belt. And Roman, for anyone keeping track at home, Roman has beaten John Cena on pay-per-view, correct? Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Dante, just subscribe. If you get a podcast, you get a website yourself, feel free to write it in the comment, and I'll plug it for you here, Dante. If not, that's fine, too. Nice to see you. Nice sport coat. Yeah, thanks. See? Lou's welcome you to the fold, man. Appreciate that. I just feel that Cena is going to run with this title. He's going to have it's all predetermined. I mean, it's obviously predetermined, but it's just a way to spotlight the title, get some shine, some mainstream media. This is the WWE's counter to the hardcore wrestling fans getting excited about Bryan and Punk, because WWE, as we know, as we've said, they have that mainstream connections with the mainstream press. When people think pro wrestling, they typically think WWE. They're not thinking AEW quite yet. They might in the future. There's been some references on pop culture stuff to AEW, and they have their connections as well. But I just feel that this is a counterattack from WWE. Put that title on Cena, and blah, blah, blah. That's my prediction. Now, could I be wrong? I could be wrong. We'll see. I think the other part of that, to be honest with you, is I think that The Rock and an Uso versus Roman and an Uso, that match was being rumored as a possible WrestleMania main event for 2022 already. I think with the whole DWI or DUI, driving under influence from one of the Usos there, that might have put that in jeopardy. And The Rock is doing a lot of movies, and those movies pay more than wrestling. Like unless they give The Rock half the gate, they can't compete with the Rock's money. Oh, well, hey, Dante, man, you're going to SummerSlam. I live in Las Vegas. I'm excited, but more excited for Punk's debut, LOL. Well, here's the thing. Isn't that interesting? Here's a guy who bought a ticket, and those tickets are expensive to SummerSlam. So he's going to go to he's in Vegas. He lives in Vegas. That's awesome. You're excited, but more excited for Punk's debut. So I think that's an interesting one. Vince will sell before he acknowledges anyone as competition. Well, I've listened to, and look, who knows how much this guy says is true. Talk about Bruce Pritchard without a T, right? If you listen to Something to Wrestle, you know that Bruce Pritchard, his truth-telling has diminished as he's now working with WWE. If you listen to the original episodes of Something to Wrestle, the first, 100 or 110 episodes, the first 2 or 3 years of Something to Wrestle, Bruce would really let you inside the mind from his perspective of Vince Jr., of Vince McMahon. Now, not so much. I was trying to listen to Something to Wrestle tonight, and it was a painful listen because Bruce was so guarded and so humorless on this new Something to Wrestle episode. And poor CONRAD THOMPSON, who I've interviewed, you Dante, you can find my interview with CONRAD THOMPSON here on Mike's Messier. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Bruce was so guarded in that fucking podcast tonight. I had to turn it off. I'm like, I can't listen to this. But the point is, Bruce used to tell you all about Vince and how petty Vince was. And they would watch, Bruce Pritchard, professional shill. Bruce would let you know that Junior was kind of a madman. And Jim Ross, a quote that I love from Jim Ross that he said several times about Vince McMahon Jr. is he couldn't function in normal society, so he created a world for himself. Something to that effect. Like Vince Jr. couldn't function in the world, so he created his own world. And I kind of feel like that's like me. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that applies to me personally. Like I have a hard time with some things in reality that I don't like, and I can't control everything. If you watch my Long John Silver's Mike's Meals tonight, Dante, you'll see that sometimes like just society and the customs and what people expect of me or they expect of each other, I don't agree with, to the point that I just want to go away and either go into wrestling world, or Mike writes a book world, or Mike writes a screenplay or does a video or sees a movie. I saw another movie tonight. I saw a great movie, The Protege. Of course, I thought it was great. Then I get a review. People are panning it, so I don't know what the hell to say, but I enjoyed the movie when I watched it. The point is, I think Junior is going to put that title on Cena. I think, it's a great quote. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while, Var. Good to see you again, buddy. Var says, wow, JR's quote makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he says it a lot on the podcast, that Vince created his own world because he couldn't deal with the real world. And I think that's great. And I feel a kinship to Vince Jr. if given that quote. Like, I dig that quote. But you have to look at the filter of WWE then, as we've all experienced this vision of a madman, like where there's, you have Big Van Vader, and then you have Mini Vader, and you have Mini Mankind, and you have Trish Stratus on her knees barking like a dog, and you have Kamala, and you have the Red Rooster, Terry Taylor, and like you have Mantar, like all the weird stuff, Katie Vick and Triple H and sticking his own head up Big Show's ass in a Hell in a Cell. All these weird and wonderful things are from this demented madman named Junior. So when you wonder why the WWE, especially, and not to offend you there, Johnny, but gobbledygooker, right? When you wonder where all these weird shit comes from, it's from this guy, Junior, who was abused as a child, who didn't know his natural-born father for several years, and then they played catch-up. And there you go. WWE is Vince's playground, and the wrestlers are the toys. And, because I know that Johnny's chomping at the bit, I could read his mind, but he would say, well, what about AEW? Well, yeah. Then you have the new spoiled kid, the new Richie Rich, and these are his action figures. Now, the difference is that Tony Khan apparently likes to let his action figures breathe a little bit. Like they can, you know what I mean? But Vince is more of a hands-on manipulator, and I hate to just say this all the time, I'm actually concerned about Junior and his age because I feel that he's suffering from some type of age-related mental status. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Great point. Who needs drugs when you have your own universe? Exactly. Yeah, I was more of a – well, I think the Katie Vick thing, Johnny, not to correct you, buddy, not to split hairs too much, but I think Katie Vick was – I want to say 2003. They did this whole thing in 2003, and WCW ended in March of 2001. But in 2003, they literally – this was like what they called like the Triple H horror time or the year of Triple H, the reign of terror of Triple H, because they took away the hardcore title from Tommy Dreamer. I think they kind of like unified all the secondary titles. They unified like the Intercontinental title and the hardcore title somehow. And then they got the Intercontinental title on Kane, and then Triple H beat Kane. And like they got rid of in a series of weeks all the secondary titles and try to put all that energy onto Triple H on Raw, which at the time wasn't too bad, sort of, because you had too many titles floating around. You had all these, like, you had the Cruiserweight title coming in from WCW, and they were trying to put a lot of prestige. Now, here's the thing for me. How come when they introduced that 2003 WCW World Heavyweight title, how come they just didn't have, like, a tournament? They just had Bischoff come out and give the belt to Triple H, and then they had Triple H fight Flair at the end of the night. But Triple H was defending that title against Flair. Why don't they just have that be a title match? Like, okay, we've got the best WWE wrestler and the heritage guy of Flair. It made no sense. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, my memory is pretty good of that era, 2003, 2004. I have a very interesting memory. Like, my memory is pretty damn good for wrestling, except for new shit. Like, it's just like the last couple of years it gets foggy, but like stuff before then I remember pretty well. Favorite era of wrestling? Great question. I'm kind of an older guy, Dante. I would probably go with the dying days of the territories. Like, I think probably my 87, old school. But I'll give you a second choice, which is 10 years later. I feel like 87 and 97 were two great years for pro wrestling. I think in 87, WCW, or at the time it was called the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, finally got on pay-per-view. Yes, their pay-per-view, Starrcade 87. Chi-Town Heat was kind of cut off at the balls a little bit because the WWF did Survivor Series that same night. But I feel like the Crockett Cup, if you find my Crockett Cup memories, you'll see that I've been watching this stuff for a long time, Dante. So I feel like the end of the territory days, 86, 87, but 87. And then 97 was fun because you had Canadian Stampede in WWF. If you've never watched that pay-per-view, Dante, I highly suggest it. It's called the Calgary Stampede. You had Flying Brian, Owen Hart, Anvil, Neidhart, Bret Hart, and the Five Hearts, Davey Boy Smith, against the Road Warriors, Shamrock, Goldust, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I won't spoil it. Please don't spoil it. Yeah. Yeah, well, Attitude Era was a lot of fun. So 97 kind of was like the beginnings of the Attitude Era. So that Calgary Stampede, maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but I would highly suggest that. I'm telling you, like Survivor Series 97, when all the things got blurred, 83 to 87. Jim Cornette says that 83 was the last great year for wrestling. You might have a point. And January 24th, 84 is when Hogan got the belt. Oh boy, Johnny's not a big Barry Windham fan, but I'm telling you, Barry Windham. When I was there, when Barry Windham beat the Great Muta in Asheville, North Carolina for the NWA title, I was appreciative. There's a lot of things, Dante. Here's the thing that's interesting about pro wrestling. A lot of times, certain eras don't feel very good at the time. For instance, Super Clash 3. That felt like at the time, well, it's kind of okay. Like you had Sting and Vader in this strap match. I mean, it was definitely a different feeling than 5 years earlier with like the Horsemen and Dusty and the Road Warriors. But you had Sting and Vader in a strap match, and they tore the fucking house down. So look into that one, Dante. I was there for that. Super Clash 3, Sting, Vader, and you had some wrestle crap back then. If you guys have ever heard of the Wrestle Crap website or book, I think W.D. Reynolds did that, maybe with Brian Alvarez. But at the time, you had all these little micro movies, these little movies on WCW television that were hyping up these pay-per-view shows. And one of them was for the Sting Vader White Castle Fear match. It's like, wait a minute, White Castle is a hamburger restaurant. What are they doing? It turned out to be a hell of a good fucking match. So, you know what I mean? It's just a weird deal. Also, the summer of 93, they had these Sting and Davey Boy Smith on a beach in an exploding boat getting ready for Sid and Vader in a tag team match. Well, everyone crapped on it. Oh, my God, this horrible vignette. The match is pretty fucking good. Like, if you ever watch, I believe, is it Bash at the Beach 93? If you find that match, Sting and Davey Boy Smith against Sid and Vader, it's a great match. I think it's the first time that Vader did a moonsault also on pay-per-view. And, get this, Johnny, Arn Anderson versus Barry Windham for the NWA World title. You got it, man. Hey, Dante, you can find Pro Wrestling Memories. I'm always suggesting stuff. I think I've given you enough for tonight. Like I said, Super Clash 3, February of 93. You've got a great Dude Love versus Paul Orndorff. Not Dude Love. Cactus Jack versus Paul Orndorff match at Super Clash 3. And you've got, we're talking about Brian Pillman earlier, you've got Brian Pillman and Steve Austin tag teaming. You've got a Rock and Roll Express match. You can watch the whole show, but if you had to watch 2 matches on that Super Clash 93, I'm not even going to put over Barry Windham, Johnny. Watch Mankind versus Paul Orndorff and watch Sting versus Vader. Now, here's the thing, Dante, and I don't know, you're 30. You're kind of on the cusp of this. Back in my day, it used to be that watching a whole pro wrestling card was like listening to an entire album of music, like an entire album. And that, to me, like in the late 70s or in the mid 70s, when albums, Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel, the Beatles, especially Led Zeppelin, all these great bands, Fleetwood Mac, they would compose their music like an album. And guys like Paul Heyman and other promoters would conduct their pro wrestling shows like an album, meaning that the first match, a lot of times, even if you watch old WWF, were like a 20-minute draw. You'd have Johnny Rods and SD Jones or somebody, Rick McGraw or someone like that, go to a 20-minute draw with somebody, right? Then you would kind of build up. And back in those days, the world champion of the WWF especially sometimes would wrestle in the 5th match right before intermission. There was a psychology behind that because they wanted to have the match, the world title match, end in a way that they could sell tickets for the next month because they were more concerned about the house show business than the pay-per-view business. So if you have Bob Backlund versus Don Morocco go to a double countout after 25 minutes in your main event, but you have that fifth, and then you still have you have a 15 or 20-minute intermission for everyone to kind of process. Then you come back and you've got like some big tag team match at the end of the night, or maybe you have Andre the Giant or a Battle Royal. But right before that main event or that last match of the night, you say, ladies and gentlemen, because of the inconclusive nature of our world title match tonight, there has been stipulated a rematch 1 month from now. You must come back and see Bob Backlund versus Don Morocco in a cage or in a lumberjack match. So the point is, things have changed. Basically, if I could put a nutshell on it real quick, it's gone from a house show business to a pay-per-view business. And we've also seen wrestling go from a 4 pay-per-view a year business to a 12 pay-per-view a year business. TNA Wrestling, Total Nonstop Action, NWA, for a couple of years, they were doing a weekly pay-per-view business. So things do change. For the better or not, I don't know. I would probably say for the not. But I'd say the one thing that I can say now, not just one, but a thing that's great about being a pro wrestling fan now is we have all this stuff at our fingertips. It's up to us to buy the DVDs or to get, if it's Peacock or if it's some other way of getting this stuff. People are telling me that some people are getting VPNs so that they can get access to the WWE network from overseas while still living in the USA. You didn't hear it from me, but I heard that. So there's ways to get this resource. YouTube, free wrestling. I mean, I watch WWF shows from the Spectrum in '81, Philadelphia. So if you're still there, Dante, let us know where you're from, buddy. I'm just kind of curious what city or town, state. But you talk about you wish you got to experience the territory era and some really good years, 83 to 87. In a way, I've been going to the Jacksonville Daly's place for AEW. That kind of feels like a territory. The same weekly city, and when I'm watching a lot of these AEW shows, everybody, Dante, I'm not going home to watch the same show I just saw live with the commentary. Oh, yeah, you said Vegas. I'm getting a little tired. You're born in Springfield, Illinois, but moved to Las Vegas last year. Good for you, man. I moved to Jacksonville. So you can find that I've got all these bootleg Mike Cam AEW videos. So I get tons of AEW videos. And I feel like that's like a little territory. Now Johnny, who doesn't like AEW as much, might be upset by that. But for me, I'm not going home at 1 o'clock or midnight. So I got to go listen to the show on commentary. I've kind of got my own commentary in my head. You know what I mean? Well, my computer is about to die, gentlemen. This has been subscribed to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Shane from Wrestling Fans on Facebook invites you all, I'm sure, to join. It's literally called Wrestling Fans. I think there's 36,000. But Shane suggested this video. I said, why not? I'm in Orlando. I may or may not be going to Epcot tonight. Had a big day. Did a Long John Silver's food review. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. I think Dante is Dante is something like 977 or 976. Thanks, Johnny Z, for checking in. That's right. And you guys have a good night. Luthez, Johnny Z. See you on Twitter, buddy. Tell Kevin Castle I said hi. Dante, we had some other folks in here tonight. My buddy up there, where'd he go? Oh, VAR. Yeah, good to see VAR again. Been a while. I like some of these pictures you guys do for your profile stuff. Okay, guys. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel, and I'll check in again, and we'll see what happens with CM Punk. I predict he will be there tomorrow night. He will say something, and he will wrestle, like Wrestle Brothers said, November 5th, 2021. According to Wrestle Brothers, that's the hint. I don't know that for a fact. Just opinions, not facts. Good night, everyone.